A gay rights campaigner says critics of the Scottish Government's transgender reforms are being excluded from the political process in the country. Dr Shereen Benjamin, who's a senior lecturer at the University of Edinburgh, tried to join the Scottish Parliament's LGBT group as a representative of For Women Scotland. But her application was turned down. As I say, she's a member of For Women Scotland, which opposes the SNP's plans to overhaul the Gender Recognition Act. And earlier this week, Dr Benjamin said she was viewed as, quote, the wrong sort of lesbian. I'm delighted to say Dr Shereen Benjamin joins me now on Free Speech Nation. Thanks very much for joining me today, Dr Benjamin. Can I ask you what did you meant by that, the wrong sort of lesbian?
Well, I mean, it was a bit of a flippant comment, really, but it was making a serious point in that the lobby groups that purport to speak for everybody who now finds themselves under the LGBTI plus umbrella all advocate for policy solutions or policy measures that are based on an uncritical acceptance of gender identity theory. So in the Scottish context, that means they're all advocating for self-identification, for changes to the law, changes to the Gender Recognition Act that would give people the right to self-declare their gender without medical safeguards. And those groups, a lot of which get a lot of their funding from the Scottish Government, all advocate with one voice for self-identification in this context, for those kinds of measures, as if they're speaking for all lesbians, gay men, bisexuals, transgender identifying people, as if we all have one set of views on this controversial topic, which of course is absurd. You know, lots of lesbians and gay men and bisexual people and transgender identifying people have concerns about self-identification, have concerns about the consequences that it'll have, particularly for women's rights. And for lesbians, many of us see ourselves as same-sex attracted, not same-gender attracted. And there's this real sense that if you don't go along with this line that the lobby groups take, that you are somehow beyond the pale of civilized conversation. Your views are so odious that you can't be engaged with. You're almost a non-person. And that was what I expressed as the wrong sort of lesbian, which was a bit of a flippant way to put it, but it's a serious point.
No, I understand the point you're making. But what I don't understand is if this is what they call an LGBTI plus group within the Scottish Parliament, and presumably this is about consultation, they want to hear different views on this subject so that they can move forward, wouldn't they want to hear other opinions on this?
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? So the cross-party groups, if I can just give you a bit of context, the cross-party groups in the Scottish Parliament are opportunities for MSPs to meet with members of the public, people with an interest in whatever the topic is. And they're opportunities for those members of the public, who are often members of groups, to influence politicians, to have access to MSPs that they wouldn't otherwise have. Now, the LGBTI I think it's LGBTI plus cross-party group, all the members of it are from, most of the members are either from the lobby groups that support the Scottish Government's proposed direction of travel, or individuals who also have those views. And back in, I think it was September, at the September meeting of that group, they minuted an intention to go wider, to get a broader section of views. Just to give you another piece of context, the Scottish Government has been spectacularly bad at accessing the range of views. They've been spectacularly bad at engaging with evidence and arguments from people who don't support their preferred narrative. They've also been spectacularly bad at addressing the climate for discussion. So you'll hear parliamentarians standing up and saying it's such a toxic debate, it's so polarised, but they haven't been doing anything to get people around in the same space to have respectful dialogue. Anyway, so back in September, this cross-party group minuted its intention to seek a wider range of views. And one of the constituencies they mentioned in their minutes was they wanted to reach out to women, to women's groups. So we saw that in For Women Scotland. We thought, hooray, you know, this is brilliant. We've got at last a group within the Scottish Parliament that wants to have dialogue, that wants to engage with a range of views, wants to construct some kind of space for respectful dialogue with people who have very divergent opinions. We were really pleased to see that. So we talked it over. And we agreed that I would write to the chair of that group and ask to be admitted as a representative for Women Scotland, which actually was really scary because some of the people on that group have a history of taking quite extreme positions. So it would have felt a bit like going into the lion's den, but I'm really serious about needing respectful discussion in the space. So
well, I believe some people in that group had smeared For Women Scotland by associating them with the KKK, I believe, or is that accurate?
I'm afraid it is, yeah. Last year, there was a cartoon that was doing the rounds, which depicted For Women Scotland as the Ku Klux Klan. And after it was shared, For Women Scotland got a lot of very disgusting misogynist abuse, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And at least, so 3 of the people who were on that group, who were on the LGBTI cross-parliament group, not the MSPs, the other people, shared that cartoon online. And
well, if we're talking
I'm not
about
censorious.
Toxic debates, I mean, this is interesting to me because surely if their concern is about the toxicity of the debate, and they have people within the group who are clearly contributing to the toxicity of the debate by smearing For Women Scotland in that terrible way, but moreover, are not the SNP themselves contributing to the toxicity of the debate, given that they routinely will say women such as yourself, lesbians who say that they are same-sex attracted, not same-gender attracted, and actually women who say that sex as a biological category is essential for the preservation of women's rights, that those people are the equivalent of Nazis or fascists and, you know, or beyond the pale. Isn't that toxic in of itself?
I would think so. If I could just go back to the cartoon, because I do actually think this is important, that, and there's 2 points I think I want to make about it. One is I'm not censorious. I think if people want to distribute offensive material, there isn't a requirement not to be offended. But what I want to do for that, so those 3 people in that group who shared that material, I'd like to sit around a table with them and explain to them what I do think, you know, why I think it's important to defend the rights that women have won on the basis of sex that we still need. You know, I want to have that conversation. I want them to look me in the eye, human being to human being, and explain to me why they think my views are analogous with the Ku Klux Klan, why they think my views are on a par with the views and actions of white supremacists who burned people's houses down and strung people up on the trees to die. I'd quite like to have that conversation. And
So,
I don't think they could defend it, but I think in having that conversation, we would actually be able to move on. That would reduce the toxicity.
I mean, that is a key point, isn't it? That they're not meeting with you. They're not seeing you as a human being. They're conjuring this image. You know, the way that all forms of demonisation and dehumanisation occur is that they don't know the people, so they can create these false images of them. And surely that's the reason why you need it to be represented, so that it can become an adult conversation again.
That's exactly it. And the other point I would want to make is that at the meeting, so what happened at the meeting, as I gather, not a single person who was at that meeting supported our application. So we were unanimously turned down. I haven't been given a reason. I was just told they didn't support it. I wasn't told why. But there were 7 MSPs who were at that meeting who voted against admitting us. So they're saying they're okay about sitting around a table with people who've shared that kind of material online, which is very inflammatory and very dehumanizing, as you've said, but they're not okay about sitting around a table with me. So I'd quite like to ask them why that is. I'd quite like them to tell me why that's all right. And, you know, if any of those MSPs go on the record over the next few months, as they probably will, saying that the debate is toxic, well, they only have themselves to blame. You know, that's utter hypocrisy, I think.
I think that's an excellent point.